What if I told you that one of the most important drinks in ancient history wasn't wine, wasn't beer, and wasn't even water?
It was basically vinegar water.
And somehow it helped fuel one of the greatest empires the world has ever known.
Today, we're talking about Posca, the everyday drink for the Roman soldier.
We got a lot of notes here, so you might see us reading quite a bit because there's a lot of words, you know?
We got words.
We got words. So what the heck is Posca?
So Posca is an ancient Roman beverage. It was basically a mixture of water and red wine vinegar.
Sometimes with herbs, sometimes with salt. It was usually incredibly cheap and it was easy to make almost anywhere. It's kind of amazing that one of history's most famous drinks is basically something that you might make by accident while cleaning your kitchen.
Yeah, it's a fun thing reading and learning about these ancient brews is that they're kind of things that you wouldn't think today to mix. But as illustrated by my
That's a shrub
that I'm drinking right now, they're actually really delicious.
A shrub seems to be related to Switchel, and Switchel seems to be the modern version of Posca.
Yeah, I think Posca is like the great-great-great-grandfather of Switchel.
You might want a couple more greats in there. I think it's older than that.
Probably more.
It's
yeah.
thousands of years. Why not just drink water, though?
All right, so we're talking about Roman soldiers, right? They're out in the field. They're leaving Rome to go fight the battle and expand the empire. So sure, Rome had a bunch of aqueducts, so they had a great supply of fresh water, but the soldier didn't have those aqueducts.
Yeah, because they weren't always stationed in Rome.
So they had lakes, they had rivers, they had creeks, they had a puddle.
Stagnant water, questionable water quality. I used to call, when we would go to alleys in Ybor City to shoot photos, the water there, questionable liquids.
Yes.
Because often they were.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure as it got darker, some of the puddles glowed.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But the Roman soldiers would be drinking from those alleys.
No. But adding vinegar to water lowers the pH, which immediately makes it somewhat safer because that discourages some bacterial growth.
Yeah.
It improves the flavor, which is questionable. Some people really hate vinegar.
True.
Like your brother's wife, she hates vinegar. She won't touch it.
Posca's not a drink for her.
Yeah, more for us. And it made questionable water more drinkable. I wouldn't say it 100% made it safe, but it could improve it, could make it a little bit better.
The acidifying effect could kill off many pathogens, so
yeah,
it is going to help it a little bit. 100% probably not, but better than the puddle water on its own.
I mean, here's a question for you. Would you rather drink swamp water or swamp water with vinegar?
I think the vinegar is going to cover up some of that swampiness.
Yeah, but if I had to choose, I probably wouldn't drink either.
Sure.
Swamp water is really not something I want to have. Why the soldiers loved it.
All right, so there are multiple things that are coming into play here. Not only is this something that they can take with them, they have a limited amount of ingredients that they're going to use on things that they find in the field, as it were, but it's going to help them in their endeavor of being able to fight the fight. Right,
but did Posca build the Roman Empire?
Probably not.
Not by itself.
No.
But it was cheap. It was lightweight. It was shelf stable. I need to hold these. Sorry, I gotta hold them. It was easy to transport, refreshing, and I can get that. The acidity makes it refreshing. That's why like a lot of sodas and things like that are refreshing because they're crisp. It made poor water taste better, and it encouraged hydration because of the electrolytes and things like that.
Right. So you can have a small portion of the vinegar, a little portion of salt, and some dried herbs, and using the water that they find on location to dilute those things will make those things that they're carrying with them last a lot longer and have multiple usages.
Interesting side note, the word salary actually is derived from the word salt because Roman soldiers were often paid in salt.
Yep.
That's not even in our notes. I just knew that. But today, modern armies carry electrolyte drinks. Romans carried vinegar. And it makes sense. If you need a small amount of vinegar to go with water, they found the water on the way. Mm-hmm. They carried the herbs, they carried the salt, and they carried the vinegar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Because at first, when I saw the easy to transport, I was like, it's no easier to transport than water is. And water is notoriously not easy to transport.
Sure. These are just additions to the water that they find on location.
I'm coming around. I'm starting to realize it. Posca was not just for soldiers.
That's right. So the soldiers used it because of the electrolytes and the hydration properties that's really going to help them, plus the portability. But the commoner back in Rome liked it because it was cheap.
And soldiers, laborers, farmers, slaves, and the working class. I'm thinking it's kind of along the lines of like the small beer later on, where it provided a bunch of nutrients. You could basically, like they called it liquid bread.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking a very low ABV beer, like 1 or 2% was from the second or even third runnings from an actual beer.
Right. So small beers were commonly breakfast beers. So that way,
They were all day beers.
before the laborers would go out into the fields to work, and grow the food, they would have that beer because the carbohydrates in it were going to last them longer throughout the day.
Right. It was just as good as eating food because it actually contained a lot of nutrients too. And I'm thinking these are parallel type of things. Not exactly the same, but they run parallel to each other.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Now, there were some uppity types that also indulged in Posca. And why did they do that, Brian?
To show solidarity is what the research shows. To me, that sounds a little bit strange, but I kind of get it. If you want to connect to your
People.
yeah, let's say it that way, you drank what they drank. So that way they looked up to you. They felt that you were doing the same as them. It gave a connection. Like people that actually did it were Cato the Elder and Emperor Hadrian. By the way, Hadrian's garden is unbelievable. Went there many years ago. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't get to bring her there. I was long
Pre-me.
before. Yeah, pre Derica. So here's something to discuss. Would a CEO today eat in the employee cafeteria every day just to prove a point?
And Brian said no, and I said yes, because there are actual documented CEOs who integrated themselves into their workforce. They didn't
exception,
separate
not the
themselves.
rule.
Yes, this is the exception, not the rule.
And then we also realized that I'm actually the CEO of our company.
And not only does he eat in the same cafeteria, aka our dining room, but he prepares the food.
Yeah,
So
I'm the cook. I even help with the bottle washing sometimes. What's in a name? This is where it gets kind of interesting. Nobody really knows the actual origin.
right, there's some speculation about the different root words that could come together to make
Whether it's
Posca.
Latin or Greek.
Yeah.
Protor means to drink in Latin, and some people say that that's the origin, but there's other.
And then there was a vinegar word like
Yeah.
exos or something. And
Yeah, there's so many different words that maybe almost kind of sort of possibly could be the origin, but nobody's really sure. Greek writers actually just called it vinegar. They didn't even bother trying to expound on it because they didn't really have a separate word for what the beverage was at that time.
It was just an adulterated vinegar, so it was still vinegar to them.
Right. But in the Byzantine Empire, later on, it became Posca, Phouska. And it's funny that the drink actually survived longer than Rome did. So, yeah.
Rome fell, but Posca didn't.
That's right. Now, something that they did to add to it that changed everything was herbs. And they used a lot of different herbs. It wasn't always just vinegar. I mean, you could have thyme, fennel, cumin, celery seed, anise, pennyroyal, which is toxic, by the way, but only the oil.
That's right.
The leaves are actually used as a digestive aid, and they're good for like menstrual cramps and things like that. It's also sung by Nirvana, pennyroyal tea. Anyway, mint and other regional herbs. So basically, every Roman legion had like their own house recipe.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of those got traded on the field. They're like, oh, you have mint. I have rosemary. Let's try the two together. And so together, they probably made their own new fascinating recipes.
You got your chocolate and my peanut butter. I got my peanut butter and your chocolate. That kind of thing. And basically what this means is that the Romans were probably the first homebrewers. Think about it. They were on the road. They weren't in a lab. They weren't commercial. They were just doing it for the enjoyment of themselves.
They were out of home brewers.
There you go.
On the road brewers.
All right. We'll go with that.
The traveling brewers. So now it comes to the Bible connection. And if you remember, we referenced this earlier, that the writers of that time just called it vinegar. And you may recall a passage in the Bible
where Jesus is offered vinegar on a sponge during the crucifixion. I'd actually forgotten about that until I read the research on this. And a lot of scholars actually believe this was Posca, not because anyone was trying to be cruel. It's because Roman soldiers simply had Posca with them. So
Right.
this is what they would have had. Kind of like today, you offer somebody your water bottle. Same concept. So this was just Posca, and
Yeah.
it just happened to be on a sponge.
It was their hydration, so because of his situation, they gave it to him on a sponge.
Yeah, I mean, it was just literally the soldiers' everyday drink. They would have had it with them. But here's the big question. Did it actually work? From a modern perspective, Posca probably provided better tasting water. It encouraged hydration. It had some trace minerals. Now that depends on the ingredients, because if you had some salt in there, there could be some,
Yep.
depending on the type of salt too, could be even more trace minerals, and the herbs and stuff like that. Small amount of calories. I'm going to say really small amount of calories.
Right. It depends if they had something that they brought with them
Like
as a
fruit or something.
sweetener, like honey. If they had
Oh,
that,
that's true.
then that is going
That
to.
would also offer some trace minerals.
Yep.
Well, in nutrients, should say. It was an acidic environment, which is usually going to be safer to drink, but not necessarily safe, but probably better than like a stagnant pool or something like that.
Sure.
Would it replace Gatorade, though?
I would rather drink Posca than Gatorade, but that's just me.
Yeah, Gatorade's basically just sugar water today. I really don't. I never got into Gatorade.
Electrolytes.
Yeah, that's not Gatorade. That's something else. I forget what that's called. Brawny or something. Brondo. That's what it is. However, would Posca have outperformed plain old like river water? Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely. Would we drink it today? Spoilers, we're going to, but that's not in this video. That's going to be probably next week's video. Would modern people even like it? Like athletes or gardeners, people working outside?
I'm going to go on a limb and say, based on our reaction to the Switchel that we drank, yes, they would.
I think it depends on how it's made.
Sure.
I mean, you can make it taste like absolutely bad, or
Sure.
you can make it taste really good.
Yeah.
Could Posca be made trendy again?
Posh Posca.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be trendy. People are weird, you know. It's difficult to say like, oh, we're gonna make this a trend again. You know, you tell your friends, hey, drink this vinegar water. It's probably not going to take off like you might.
Well,
want
you
it to.
don't say vinegar water. You
But
say
you know what I mean.
Posca.
And people go, what the hell is
It's an
Posca?
ancient Roman drink. Ooh.
But you see, here's where it changes, because you could make cherry Posca, blueberry, sparkling, honey, spiced winter Posca. I don't even know what that would be.
Fancy.
And this is the thing with these drinks. This is why, like, Posca opened up to Switchel, opened up to a shrub. They're similar, and they have so many different varieties that they could be. Like,
Yep.
there's such a wide range that you could add to this.
They're a base that you can literally add anything your imagination come up with to and create something unique and different each time.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be using a lot of these base things to create other things that maybe the Romans never even thought of. So there. Okay, fun facts with the lightning round.
Dun, dun, dun.
Rome lasted over 1,000 years. Posca was consumed for centuries. It was probably more common than wine for ordinary soldiers. It cost a fraction of wine. Byzantine soldiers still drank versions hundreds of years later, and it may be one of the longest lived sports drinks in history. If you lived in ancient Rome, would you rather drink wine every day or Posca?
I think I'd want a little of column A and a little of column B.
Maybe mix them. I don't know.
No,
They did actually dilute wine with water, though,
Right.
to reduce its drunkenness.
yes.
And to keep the flavor so that it made the water taste better. So I'm thinking Posca was kind of the same idea.
Sure.
But with vinegar, which would have been cheaper than wine.
Yep.
Wow. You know, when you start digging, it all starts to kind of make sense.
Yep.
But stay tuned for next week when we're actually going to make some Posca, because that's why we did this entire video, just to learn a little bit about it so that we can make a recipe just for you guys. So, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.